Welcome to Mental Health Monday. I am so glad you have joined us this evening. My name is Jerry Walker, and I'm a licensed professional counselor. This is a very special Mental Health Monday because we have back with us this evening Dr. Mary Barbee. She's all the way from Florida. She's in sunny Florida today, and we should all be with her. But how wonderful it is that she is actually with us. And if you remember, Dr. Mary came and presented at the Women in Resilience conference that we had right at the end of February. And Mary, do you realize that was really the last event that we had where we were all together, and then March happened and everything was shut down. So you helped us fill our toolboxes with resilience and all that we needed. And oh my goodness, it's been a year. And
That's
here we are. Yeah, here we are again. So again, welcome, Mary. And please just tell us how you are and then help us understand again what we can do to get through these times.
Okay. Well, good evening, Jerry. It is good to be back with the Cathedral of the Rockies family. And like you said, it's just been a year ago that I had the pleasure of worshiping with you. And what a difference a year makes. And after you and I talked about Mental Health Monday, my mind traveled to the current circumstances. And interestingly enough, the opening paragraph of Charles Dickens' The Tale of Two Cities came to me. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom. It was the age of foolishness. It was the epic of belief. It was the epic of incredulity. It was the season of light. It was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope. It was the winter of despair. Even though Charles Dickens authored The Tale of Two Cities in 1859, it speaks to our current state of affairs. We are in exceptional times. Charles Dickens wrote about exceptional times. Therein lies the connection. 162 years later, his words are still relevant. And how powerful are his words, especially today? You might question, it was the best of times. How can that be? Let's think about this for a minute. These horrific times have brought out the best of us. We see the unending dedication of healthcare workers, teachers, grocery store workers, etc. We see the kindness of neighbors shopping for neighbors. We see friends and families coming up with creative ways to celebrate their milestones. For example, when one of my patients turned 105, his friends and family paraded in front of his residence to celebrate that special occasion. And right here with you, Jerry, you were using your creativity to still bring Mental Health Mondays to everyone. And you all can think a moment and you can come up with many more examples. And I think Amanda Gorman expresses it best in her poem, Miracle of Morning. While we might feel small, separate, and all alone, our people have never been more closely tethered. The question isn't if we will weather this unknown, but how we will weather this unknown together. So on this meaningful morn, we mourn and we mend. Like light, we can't be broken even when we bend. As one, we will defeat both despair and disease. We stand with healthcare heroes and all employees, with families, libraries, schools, waiters, artists, businesses, restaurants, and hospitals hit hardest. We ignite not in the light, but in the lack thereof. For it is in the loss that we truly learn to love. In this chaos, we will discover clarity. In this suffering, we must find solidarity. For it's our grief that gives us gratitude, shows us how to find hope if ever we lose it. So ensure that this ache won't be endured in vain. Do not ignore the pain. Give it purpose. Use it. Read children's books. Dance along with DJ music. Know that this distance will make our hearts grow fonder. For a wave our woes, our world will emerge stronger. We'll observe how the burdens braved by humankind are also the moments that make us humans kind. Let every dawn find us courageous, brought closer, heeding the light before the fight is over. When this ends, we'll smile sweetly, finally seeing in the testing of times, we became the best of beings. My friend Trish proclaims that we develop a deeper relationship with God during times like this. And her sentiment is consistent with Job 42:5-6. I heard of you by hearing of the ear, but now my eyes see you. Dickens observed, it was the worst of times. No question. Those of us living have never experienced anything like the COVID-19 pandemic. We have had to look down, social distance, wear masks, halt travel, halt in church services, homeschool, telework, telehealth. The list goes on. Dickens observed, it was the age of wisdom. Indeed, it is. The scientists have developed effective vaccines to defend against COVID. And this development ties in with Dickens' observation. It was the season of light. We can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Dickens observed it was the season of darkness. Without doubt, we have experienced almost 432,000 deaths in the United States from COVID. We have experienced the fear when loved ones have contracted COVID. We have suffered job losses, home losses, financial losses, health losses. The list goes on. Dickens observed it was the spring of hope. Absolutely. With the vaccine, there appears to be the hope of conquering this pandemic. With the focus on science, there is hope to rebuild and recover. Dickens observed, it was the winter of despair. For sure, we are still navigating isolation, stress, anxiety, despair, and fear associated with this pandemic. These times require, no, demand resiliency. Resiliency. Well, what is resiliency? Resiliency speaks to being able to survive the storms of life. And without question, we are in one of the worst storms of our lives. So the question becomes, how am I going to make it through? Because this is a global issue that touches everyone, the question also is, how are we going to make it through? And believe me, I have cried out to God, but what I know is that no matter the monstrosity of this storm, we will survive. And remember, Pastor Dwayne has told us no pain lasts forever. So what do we do? How do we cope? What's your story? What's my story? We all have a different story to tell, yet we all have the same story to tell. We've had to manage job changes, isolation, alternate activities, social distancing, wearing masks, no hugs, no handshakes allowed, vacillating emotions, increase of negative emotion, loss of faith. Faith. Let's chat about faith a moment. I don't know about you, but by the end of the year, I was desperately trying to latch on to my faith. I reached out for it. It wasn't there. Where did my faith go? Did it wander aimlessly? Did it vanish? Normally, my relationship with faith is pretty consistent. We were like this. But as this pandemic drug on and no relief in sight, my faith was nowhere in sight. Desperation clutched me. I fell on my knees and prayed. I prayed for myself. I prayed for my family. I prayed for my friends. I even prayed for the world. Faith still seemed elusive. I was in a warfare with this pandemic, spiritual, emotional, and psychological warfare. Where was my buddy Faith? It appeared to be MIA, missing in action. I needed to find my faith and latch on to faith securely. Did I sound needy? Yes, indeedy. Now, we know that faith is daring a soul to go beyond what the eye can see. Let me say it another way. Faith is the light that guides us through darkness. The world was dark. My world was dark. Our world was dark. I needed the light that faith provides. I would remind myself, Mary, you only need faith the size of a mustard seed. And I visualized that mustard seed. It's tiny. No, it's teeny tiny. I said, Mary, that's not much faith that you need. And you know the parable of the mustard seed. This seed germinates at once. This tiny seed produces a huge tree with a tremendous canopy. In other words, just a tiny bit of faith will produce tremendous rewards. I remembered God promised me that he would walk with me. According to Isaiah 43:2, when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. In other words, God will not forsake me or you. I remembered the miracles God performed in my life. I remembered him taking care of my needs without even asking. Still, my faith was lacking. What could I do? We can't see faith, but I needed something tangible, something to latch on to. It occurred to me, I need a mustard seed. Now, again, you know that nature of the mustard seed, this tiniest of seeds produces a tall, magnificent tree. So I went online and I ordered a necklace that had a mustard seed and the word faith on it. And just so I could have something to latch onto. I've been wearing it ever since. My necklace provides me a concrete representation of faith. I was able to walk lockstep with faith again. So my mustard seed faith necklace is my one more tool in my resilience toolkit. Just to secure faith, I added Charles Jenkins' song, Keep the Faith.
You got to remember, you're in the master's hand. And the master has a plan. So hold on.
Pastor Jenkins reminds us he's worked it out before. He can work it out again. Trust God.
He has worked it out before. He can work it out again. Trust God. Trust God.
Now, some of you may be wondering, resilience toolkit? What is that? I first introduced my resilience toolkit at a Creativity and Madness conference in Japan in 2016. And last year, I shared my resilience toolkit with the Cathedral of the Rockies family. Now, when I look back, Jerry was very timely in planning those events, but I'm sure she didn't even know what was ahead of us. Indeed, Jerry is an instrument of God because you see, he was preparing us in a way of what was to come, and he was giving the message through Jerry. And so Jerry and I were talking, and we thought, okay, this would be a good time to reintroduce my resilience toolkit. And I know some of you have since developed your own resilience toolkit, and I just applaud you for doing that. And for those of you who don't have a resilience toolkit, hopefully after this Mental Health Monday, you'll be able to create your own. And for those of you who've heard me before, this is a refresher. And for those who haven't, this is your introduction. The Resilience Toolkit is a resource that you create as you journey through life. The Resilience Toolkit consists of poems and songs and quotes and stories and Bible verses and analogies. Your Resilience Toolkit can be your buoy in the ocean of life. It can be your lifeboat in these turbulent waters of today's time. And you know, some of you may already have a Resilience Toolkit and don't realize it. You know, that go-to scripture like Psalms 23, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Or Psalms 27, the Lord is my light and my salvation, whom shall I fear? Or Ecclesiastes 3, to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heavens. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance. And if you notice, you see these opposites going on, like we saw the opposite with Charles Dickens's Tale of Two Cities. There's a connection there. Or that hymn that lifts your spirit, Precious Lord, take my hand, or Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound. As a very young child, I knew I needed such a tool. Of course, I didn't have the word resilience, but I knew intuitively what I needed to negotiate the world. In elementary school, I first put in the fairy tales. You know why? Even though the characters had sufferings, they always had a happy ending. Remember Cinderella? And I threw in Judy Garland, Somewhere Over the Rainbow. You know, where troubles melt like lemon drops. And I constantly visualized that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Hope. By 6th grade, I added my very first quote, if there's a will, there's a way. It has always served me well. Some will call me strong-willed. When I was a teenager, I added Johnny Nash's I Can See Clearly Now. And Johnny Nash sang, I can see clearly now that the rain is gone. I can see all obstacles in my way. Gone are the dark clouds that had me blind. It's going to be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. Hope. I also added B.J. Thomas's Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head. And B.J. declares, those raindrops keep falling on my head. But there's one thing I know, the blues they send to meet me won't defeat me. And it won't be long before happiness steps up to greet me. Hope. Of course, I wasn't going to be defeated. My lifelong mantra is when life gives me lemons, make lemonade. Now, Miranda Lambert sings, when life keeps giving her lemons, she's just going to mix them in her drink. And others may take their lemons and make lemon pie. It's your choice. When I became an adult, I added the books The Soul's Code, Chicken Soup for the Soul series, and Dr. Seuss, Oh, the Places You'll Go. Now, you may think, Oh, the Places You'll Go is a children's book, but it's not. Dr. Seuss understood life, and he was point on how we had to negotiate the ups and downs of life. In my Resilience Toolkit, I threw in my passion for gardening because I firmly believe we can learn a lot from nature. We just have to observe. Consider the rainbow. It takes both the rain and the sun to make the rainbow. Let me tell you about my lovely St. Augustine grass here in Florida. Well, there's this pesky Bermuda grass that loves to invade it. And if left to its own inclination, the Bermuda grass will choke out the St. Augustine grass. It does so in a number of ways. First, it would burrow its roots a foot or more in the ground, and those roots would sprout out more roots. Now that's the underground activity. Above ground, it shoots out creepers, and I even measured one 6 foot long in my yard, and those creepers will put down more roots, but they also have the nerve to produce a bouquet of tiny seeds, hundreds of them, just waiting for the next opportune wind to come along and start the process all over again. Now, what can we learn from this? We need a number of resources or strategies in our Resilience Toolkit to negotiate life. Thus, I have a love-hate relationship with that Bermuda grass because as much as I hate it, I appreciate it because it reminds me of the principles of resiliency. I also encourage you to add them bones to your resilience toolkit. You know them bones. The backbone, the wishbone, and the funny bone. Courage, dreams, laughter. In 2016, I added Rachel Platten's The Fight Song and Andrea Day's Rise Up. Rachel Platten proclaims, I don't care if nobody else believes, but I still got a lot of fight left in me. And Andrea Day says, I'll rise up in spite of the ache. Hope. I also added the quote my sister Ruby gave me, and this quote epitomizes the challenges that I've had to face as an adult in my life, and it's so good. You may want to add it to your resilience toolkit. They tried to bury me, but they didn't realize I was a seed. They didn't realize I was a seed. Hope. In the past 2 weeks, I've added Luther Barnes' song, God's Grace. He speaks to truth singing. How did I make it through the storm? How did I make it through the rain? It was God's grace. You also may want to put a GPS in your resilience toolkit. You know, GPS. God's plan sustains. Or you may prefer my sister Ruby's version, God's plan surprises. No matter your choice of GPS, according to Psalms 32:8, God declares, I will guide you along the best pathways of your life. I will advise you and watch over you. Remember, God is the master of our lives, and he does have a master plan. And in the beginning, he made a covenant with the people by placing his rainbow in the sky. No, just not in the sky. He placed it in the clouds. According to Genesis 9:13, I have set my bow in the cloud as a covenant between me and the earth. I have set my bow in the cloud. But why would God do that? Sometimes clouds darken the sky and make it hard to see the light, but God places his rainbow in the clouds that gives us the possibility of seeing hope. In this era of the pandemic, I have found myself adding to my resilience toolkit and pulling out some well-used tools. One well-used tool I pulled out is a quote that I polished off. I can complain because the rose bush has a thorn, or I can rejoice because the thorn bush has a rose. It's all up to me. And this pandemic has definitely been a thorn bush, but I'm searching for the roses, and there are some. This is my focus. And Mental Health Monday is a rose. Also, in these dark days, Margaret Power's footprints is so relevant. One night, I dreamed a dream. I was walking along the beach with my Lord. Across the dark sky flashed scenes from my life. For each scene, I noticed two sets of footprints in the sand, one belonging to me and one to my Lord. When the last scene of my life flashed before me, I looked back at the footprints in the sand. There was only one set of footprints, and I realized that this was at the lowest and saddest times of my life. This always bothered me, and I questioned the Lord about my dilemma. Lord, you told me when I decided to follow you, you would walk and talk with me all along the way. But I'm aware that during the most troublesome times of my life, there's only one set of footprints. I just don't understand. When I needed you the most, you'd leave me. He whispered, my precious child, I love you and would never leave you, never ever during your trial and testings. When you saw only one set of footprints, it was then that I carried you. And I promise you that when I look back at the footprints in the sand this past year, I will see only one set because my Lord has carried me during these brutal times. So now we're gonna take a moment and Lane will bless us with one of her beautiful songs.
I keep fighting voices in my mind that say I'm not enough. Every single lie that tells me I will never measure up. Am I more than just the sum of every high and every low? Remind me once again just who I am, because I need to know. Ooh, you say I am loved when I can't feel a thing. You say I am strong when I think I am weak. You say I am held when I am falling short, and when I don't belong. Oh, you say I am yours, and I believe, yes, I believe what you say of me. Yes, I believe. The only thing that matters now is everything you think of me. In you I find my worth, in you I find my identity. Ooh, you say I am loved when I can't feel a thing. You say I am strong when I think I am weak. You say I am held when I am falling short, and when I don't belong. Oh, you say I am yours, and I believe, yes, I believe what you say of me. Yes, I believe. Taking all I have and now I'm laying it at your feet. You'll have every failure, God. You'll have every victory. Ooh, you say I am loved when I can't feel a thing. You say I am strong when I think I am weak. You say I am held when I am falling short, and when I don't belong.
COVETA, don't you? That's my name for COVID-19. My sister Ruby and I compiled COVETA's A to Z tools for dealing with the stresses of the pandemic. Now, you may want to get pen and paper and write this down, or I can send them to Jerry. For most tools, I've added a little something, something, be it a quote or an enrichment. COVETA's A to Z tools. A, ask yourself empowering questions. What did I accomplish today? And you must include the small accomplishments as well as the large accomplishments. It can be as simple as, oh, I got to work on time, or I helped my child with their homework. B, be gentle with yourself. Remember, you are doing the best you can. C, courage. As Maya Angelou declared, courage is the most important of all virtues, because without courage, you cannot practice any of the other virtues with consistency. D, dance. Life is not about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain. D, dream. Langston Hughes beseeched us, hold fast to your dreams, for dreams die. Life is but a broken-winged bird that cannot fly. E, exercise. Exercise both your mind and body. F, faith. Martin Luther King preached, faith is taking that first step even when you don't see the whole staircase. F, focus and live for today. God will handle tomorrow. Now, I want you to know that Christabel of the Cathedral of the Rockies gave me that quote last year. So shout out to Christabel. G, God has a master plan and we are in the master's hands. H, hope. Only in darkness can you see the stars. H, humor. Humor is the sunshine of the mind. I can statements. I can do this, I can do that, I can do this and that. J, just be in the moment. The secret of health for both mind and body is not mourning the past, not to worry about the future, but to live the present moment wisely and earnestly. K, kindness. Kindness is spreading sunshine in others' lives, no matter the weather. L, love for self and others. You must love yourself first, then you can love others. L, laughter. Laughter chases the darkness away and allows sunlight to enter your heart. And I always say, a life without laughter is no life at all. M, music. Listen to music that makes you happy or relaxes you, just like Lane did. She relaxed us with that beautiful voice of hers. Sometimes music is the only medicine that the heart and soul need. N, nutrition. Eating well is a form of self-respect. O, optimism. When it rains, look for rainbows. When it's dark, look for stars. P, prayer, positive attitude, perseverance. Q, quiet moments. God whispers to us in the quiet moments, be still and listen to your heart. R, reframe negative thoughts. I can complain because the rose bush has a thorn, or rejoice because the thorn bush has a rose. It's all up to me. S, sleep. And it's okay to sleep in and it's okay to take a nap too. T, this too shall pass. U, use your resilience toolkit. V, visualize. Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? Who do you want to be? W, wish list, dreams, goals, aspirations. X, examine your life. Ask yourself, are you happy with your path? Keep what you like. Explore what you want to change. As Robert Frost acknowledged, two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. Y, you can make it. Z, zoom to feel close to others. Now, you may want to create your own personalized version of Covetta's A to Z tools. Go for it, because there are things that make you feel better and help you cope. Throughout our lives, we all struggle through times of darkness, grasping for light. When will this darkness of the time of this pandemic be over? No one knows. What I do know is that we can now see the light at the end of the tunnel. As you travel through the tunnel, use the tools in your resilience toolkit. Add some tools to your resilience toolkit. And perhaps you were able to pick up a few tools from this hour. And I hope so. And Jerry, you know, I really appreciate you inviting me on, and I'm interested in your thoughts about what's been going on, what I've just talked about.
Oh, Mary, first of all, let me just say, what a ray of sunshine. This has been so amazing. And I know the audience is probably just wanting more. So we're going to have to figure out when we can all come back together, how we do that. But enough to know that, yes, you've helped us again remember that we can be resilient. Faith makes such a big difference in our lives. And community and connection. It is so wonderful that you and I can sit here and just connect this way. Isn't it amazing that we live now and we can do that? And so, as I always do with anyone that's watching, if there are questions that you have or insights, or you just want a little more information, please email me. And if you have something you would like to say to Mary, I will make sure and pass that on to her. And it has just been such a wonderful time again to connect and have you a part of the Cathedral of the Rockies again, Mary. And, you know, we are all looking forward to being able to gather soon, but we just don't know when. So it is that reminder that we matter. Our mental health matters, and we're going to keep doing this because that connection sometimes can be the lifeline. And you, my dear, have been just such a lifeline for us tonight. And I appreciate your willingness to come on. And I think we'll do it again, don't you?
Oh, I think so. And I just thank you for allowing me to be part of your Mental Health Monday. And this is part of everybody's resilience toolkit, and having me a part of it, I just appreciate it. So it's a blessing. So thank you so much.
Righty. And again, thank you. And remember, you are not alone. And if there's anything that the Cathedral of the Rockies can do, please email me. We are available. Again, thanks for joining us tonight. Good night.